I love the view up here. What's this? Crap, not again.
Today I'm going to go over some of the new rates that BC Hydro has offered as a voluntary time of day billing. I switched over to it 7 days ago. We're going to take a look at what I've used in that 7 days compared to the previous cycle and see exactly how much I'm saving, and it is substantial. Check this out. I'm going to talk to you guys about my new electric rate that I'm on. I was on the prior rate before we went to time of day billing, and this was my last electric bill. Now this is based on 2 months. Now remember, everything in my house is electric. I've got a heat pump, I've got a hot water tank, and I have 2 electric vehicles which are charged up every night. And generally during the day we're running the batteries full because of the amount of driving that gets done every day. We're having to take a full charge. One takes about 10 kilowatts, or actually, it takes about 9, I guess, to charge. The other one is typically around 12 and a half. So about 20 kilowatts of energy just to charge up the vehicles, plus everything else that gets used around here and so forth. But this was my bill. My last bill, as you can see, is due this month on the 28th, $786. This is back when we were on just the regular 2-tiered rate, and it was based on a typically 56-day billing cycle, which really got me screwed because the first 1,350 kilowatts were billed at one rate, and then the price went up for the remainder of the billing cycle. Now, since switching to time of day billing, it's gone to a 28-day cycle. The tier 1 amount is a little bit less. I think it's $1271 now instead of $1350, but it resets after 28 days instead of 56 days. Let's take a look at what I've used since moving to time of day billing. Keep in mind, $786 would have been for 2 months, so we'll cut that in half for what 1 month would have been. If we look at the chart over the past 7 days since I switched to time of day billing, you'll see that my average use between 80 and 100 kilowatts per day. Yesterday I used 110 just because I had to do a bunch of extra driving, so I had to actually charge my car twice in that period. So that amounted for a little bit extra usage. And it was on peak, not overnight, because I had to charge, not on peak, but the tier 1 off peak, not the on peak. But I had to charge it during the day, just because I had running around to do. That was yesterday. But we look at the projection here. They're projecting that it's going to be $333 is what they're projecting for 1 month. And that would have been $393, I guess, if we took the last month's one and divided it by 2. So from $393 to $333. That would be a $60 savings in 1 month. $60 a month is what I'm expecting to save with the time of day billing. Here's how it breaks down in the chart. So if we look at the chart here, the orange, or the brown, I guess it is, that's the premium. That's the afternoon time between 4 in the afternoon and 9 at night. Now you look down here, the very first day, well, that was the day I switched over. And I hadn't started time shifting stuff. I wasn't charging my cars at night then. That was the day before I switched over, and then I switched over. So the second day in is what I'm now going to expect to see. Small amount of usage in the on-peak time. The light blue area is the regular rate, the off-peak time, and the dark blue area is overnight. And as you can see, the overnight is when the vast majority of my consumption will be used, because that's when I charge my cars, and that's when my electric hot water heater turns on. So I've done a few things to prep for this. One is I set timers up for major appliances, including the hot water heater. My water heater, as you can see, is on a timer, and now, as of now, it's switched off because it's now it's 3:51. It goes off at around 3:30, and it doesn't kick back in until 11 o'clock at night. So I have to use what water's in the tank. But that's a substantial savings right there, because the water heater will not kick in during that peak period where there's a 5-cent premium per kilowatt hour. As you can see from the prior billing period, I used 5,475 kilowatts over 56 days, $740, with an average of $13 a day. The new system that's voluntary, you go on, it's not everybody gets it, you have to actually turn it on, but how it works is we've got three different pricing. We've got the regular pricing, which is about 11 cents a kilowatt hour. I think it's 10.8 or 10.9, but we'll call it 11 cents a kilowatt hour for the first 1200 and I think it's 1271 that you use in the billing cycle, which is now 28 days instead of 56 days. So that's a savings right there. But between the hours of 7 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon, and again from 9 in the evening till 11 in the evening, it's 11 cents a kilowatt. It goes up by 5 cents between the hours of 4 and 9. And then it goes down by 5 cents between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. Well, that means that my average consumption per day is now only $10.10 instead of $13. So that's $3 a day. Now that would actually be $90 over the course of the entire month if the rate didn't go up. But the rate goes up once you hit the plateau, which is, I think it's 1271 kilowatts now instead of 1350, because that was based over a 2-month period and now it's 1 month. Here's the rate, 11.0 for the first 1287, and then it goes to 14.1. So in the evening, after 11 o'clock, it drops down to 6 cents, but in the peak period,
it goes to 16.
So you don't want to do things like run big appliances or charge cars or run air conditioning and so forth between 4 and 9. You wait till after 9 till it drops back down to turn on the AC, and wait till after 11 to turn on the big things like clothes dryers and so forth. I mean, if they're used early in the day, like Sunday morning, for example, before it goes up, as long as they're not running after 4 o'clock, then you're paying the regular rate. If you run it in the late evening, then it's, or very early morning, then you can save money. But for big things like charging electric cars and so forth, running heaters on hot water tanks or running heaters on hot tubs, they can all be programmed to heat when it's cheap and not run in the expensive time. So here's my graph from yesterday versus today. And I say yesterday I had to charge my car twice because I had a bunch of errands to run. So that's where that big peak here early in the day was that was charging my car. I charged my car again earlier today because I had to run into Richmond and pick something up. So I didn't use all the power. I only used a little bit. So I did run it for a bit, for I think an hour and a half or 2 hours this afternoon. But now it'll be down low again, and it won't kick in tonight until we get to 11 o'clock. This is 11 o'clock here, right? 11 o'clock, and then 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. And then by that point, everything's charging up and everything's dropping down. And normally it'll be more like this throughout the day. But still a big savings over what I used to get for the flat rate or the 2-tiered rate we had before. We can do a little deeper dive and look, for example, on June the 6th, my tier 1 on peak was $2, my tier 1 off peak was $4, and my overnight was $1.71. But look at the difference in the energy I used. So overnight I used 28.68 kilowatt hours, and it was $1.71. But the on-peak stuff, in the evening I used only 13 kilowatt hours, and it was $2.11. The rest of the day I used 37, and it was $4. So ideally you want to get that tier 1 or tier 2 on-peak to the minimum. And the overnight stuff is when you really want to do the heavy lifting. Now, if I go back and look at the prior billing cycle, you'll see that the consumption was roughly the same. I haven't done anything to drastically alter when I use my power. And for that matter, that timer that you saw on the hot water heater, it's been there for 10 years. I was set up for this 10 years ago when they were talking about doing it, but then they never did it. So I've been kind of waiting for this. I hear a lot of bad negative press about it because I think a lot of people don't really understand how it works. But if you can shift your high energy usage outside of that 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. window, you'll save money. It's as simple as that, right? You'll save money if you can shift your high usage away from that. I did a little bit of calculating here. Didn't have to do much calculating because this is not rocket science. But for devices that run 24 hours a day, say you've got a swimming pool pump that runs 24 hours a day, or fish tank pumps that run 24 hours a day. they will be cheaper on the voluntary time of day billing. Let me explain why. Here's looking at the prior 30 days. By the way, this is the point where we started the time of day billing here. That's when it kicked in, when I switched over. Even for devices that run 24 hours a day, the price remains the same, the light blue area, except for the 2 times when it either goes up or it goes down. For 5 hours every day, the price goes up by 5 cents per kilowatt hour. But for 8 hours every day, the price goes down by 5 cents per kilowatt hour. So what that means is if you've got something that's running 24 hours a day, such as a pool pump, or all your little devices that you keep plugged in that, they suck a little bit of vampire power here and there, like remote control circuits on your equipment or battery chargers and stuff you leave plugged in. Well, they draw a constant amount 24 hours a day. And yes, you'll pay more during that peak period, but you'll also pay less during the overnight period. And because they draw the same amount of power, you'll pay more for 5 hours, but you'll pay the same amount less for 8 hours. Therefore, there's a net 3-hour savings every 24-hour period. So if you've got something that draws, say, 1 kilowatt, and I know that's a big draw, but let's just use big numbers. 1 kilowatt. One device that operates on 1 kilowatt running 24 hours a day will draw about 11 cents per hour. Let's do a little bit of math. So on the regular rate of 11 cents per kilowatt hour, if you have an appliance that is drawing 1 kilowatt, 1,000 watts, and it's running 24 hours a day, under the old system, at 11 cents a kilowatt, it would cost you $2.64 to run that equipment 24 hours a day. And that's based on 11 cents per kilowatt, and you're using 1 kilowatt per hour, so 24 hours. Under the new system, on that same piece of equipment, it would run on the regular tier the amount of energy for the 11 hours that you're running on your regular tier, $1.21. The premium, when the rate goes up to 16 cents a kilowatt hour, will cost you 80 cents for that 5 hours, and for the 8 hours it drops to 6 cents, it will cost you 48 cents. So add those all up, and for the total, it would be $2.49 versus $2.64, a 15-cent savings. So for somebody running a pool pump that drew 1,000 watts, I don't know if I'm being realistic on that. I don't know how much pool pumps draw, but if you were running something that drew 1 kilowatt and you were running it 24 hours a day, under the new system, you would save 15 cents per day, doing nothing else. It's not rocket science. For some people, this might not make sense, but financially might not make sense. For example, if you were a senior citizen and you wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning and you go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, and all you do is watch TV all day and cook your dinner on an electric range, so all your energy consumption will be done in that peak period, then no, it's not for you. But for the rest of us that can run things like the dishwasher at 11 o'clock at night, because most of the newer ones have a timer, you load it up, you tell it to start in 4 hours, and you press the button and you walk away and it starts at 11 o'clock. And if you can put a timer on your hot water heater, then you certainly will save money with the new plan.